My name is Brian Elliott, and I'm the writer, producer, and director on The Trigger.
I am Betsy Bowman.
My name is Kat Myers.
My name is Hunter Sansone.
I have a Bachelor of Fine Arts in acting, and I've done a number of short student films and a couple feature-length films with other friends of mine. And I've done a number of projects recently, and I've done a lot of stage.
And I'm actually pretty new to acting. I have very little experience in acting in school plays, and also I did a play in college.
I have been in my mind, a fairly new actor. I've been doing it for about a year, maybe year and a half or something like that, and I've never done theater or anything, mainly film. I have a good amount of experience with short films and stuff like that.
I had another larger project I was working on I had to shelf because it was just too big, and I really liked the world that I'd created. And I started thinking about what could be different, what different story could I tell in this world, and I don't remember exactly what sparked the idea of two sisters, but it just, once I had the idea, it just kind of grabbed me in the story. I felt like it almost wrote itself.
Grace Warren. I saw the ad about The Trigger, and I always wanted to get into acting, but I always thought that I wasn't good enough. I always thought that there was something about me that would keep me from being successful at it. So I decided to go outside my comfort zone and challenge myself and do something that could really reveal myself as an artist.
Grace is very scared, but she's forced to put that aside and really take care of her younger sister Tracy, and she's kind of able to cope with the situation and all the terrible things that are happening because she has that relationship with her sister.
I can relate to her. She's the older sister, she's the protector, she's strong, and I'm the oldest of 5 children, and I felt like I've kind of always had to be that way. I'm definitely a role model for my little brothers, and we're very close, so I'm definitely aware of how I protect them and how they help me as well by being how they are. So I knew that I could definitely embody the life of Grace with that background.
In one of the early interviews that I did with Kat, I think it was actually the first time I met her in person, we were discussing the character of Grace, and she just happened to mention that she had really good handwriting, and so we were playing around with ideas for, is there a way to incorporate that into the film, and came up with the idea of what if Grace kept a journal. The journal was just a little $1 piece that I found at Michael's, but it went through an aging process with tea, and I tore up and wrinkled a lot of the pages, and it actually fell apart during that process, and so we ended up sewing it back together and creating a much more organic sort of feel to it that makes it feel like it's really been through the ringer just as much as Grace has, as she's held on to it.
I just related to a lot of my past experiences. I thought a lot about them and how I felt in times of great stress in my family and what I had to do to stay strong and to be there for them even though I was scared myself. And I just brought that to it and just went to that place. And anytime I was uncomfortable in real life, I just put that emotion into the character, and it made it a little bit easier.
I enjoyed creating Tracy because there's a lot of sort of my personality. I'm sort of an emotionally driven person and tend to act a lot on what I'm feeling and whatnot. So that was pretty easy, and I kind of probably relate to that character the most.
I mean, I think I identified with her faith struggle because I think we all go through that. Everyone has experiences that they don't understand, and so if you've grown up with a coming from a place of faith, it gets really hard sometimes to figure out what you believe in light of what the world is. And I think that's a huge part of Tracy as well.
I'd posted an ad on Craigslist and I'd found Cat that way. I had a bunch of applicants for the soldier that way. I was like, okay, nobody's jumping at the role of Tracy. And then I got this email back from Betsy.
Every character had depth, and there's going to be a challenge for me to explore in Tracy's issues with her faith and the time, and there was a lot of emotions that she was going to be experiencing, and I've never done something like that, so I wanted the challenge.
The cross that Betsy wore around her neck was incredibly difficult to find. What I'd pictured was sort of just a little wooden, very plain cross, but the only one we could find was actually the one that we ended up using in the film, and at first I wasn't sure if I liked it, but as soon as we got shooting and I saw it and how it looked, I was like, this is much cooler than what I'd envisioned. Picking Grace and Tracy's costumes was actually something that they did under my supervision, but I couldn't be there, with them when they were going to thrift stores or looking through their wardrobe or all those sorts of things. And so they just sent me picture texts with some different costume options, and I told them, yeah, I like that, I'm not as fond of that, etc. And so we just created the costumes that way. On set, we splattered the soldier with stage blood, his helmet, his costume, all of that stuff stayed exactly the same. I never washed his costume or his helmet during shooting. His boots went through a scuffing up process before shooting, and then on set just got even more absolutely filthy.
I was able to portray such a dark and psychologically messed up dude that I like to think I'm not like that in real life, and so it was pretty cool going into that depth of emotion.
Hunter sent me an audition tape of the scene where he's interrogating the girls. His performance it was like, that's what I envisioned.
And me and Betsy, we study together, so we have the same process that we do when getting into a character. So like she said, you go really deep, you truly become that person, and it's hard to come out of that.
Just need something from you.
I talked to Betsy a little bit about, so Hunter, and how is he to work, and she was like, he's great.
I had to instill so much fear into Betsy, who is, like she said, my older sister and one of my best friends, and it's pretty hard to get into that character, but you manage to, but see her crying and breaking down as a result of you and what you've done, and so that's hard to handle, scene like that. But when you're in the character, it doesn't really matter to you.
The day we shot at Corpus Christi was incredibly hot. Betsy was not feeling well, Kat was not feeling well, so it was a little bit of a grueling shoot. We had a lot of technical problems. I didn't really have much of a crew. Getting the blood to work right for the gal who got shot did not go smoothly. It was the third take, and then throwing dirt on them was actually an incredible challenge. I don't know how many takes we did, probably around 8 or 10. The basement, I found it because a friend of mine, I was talking and I was like, I need a basement. Does anybody have a basement, when I was hanging out with some friends? And she was like, well, I have a basement. I don't know if it'll work. And so I went over to her house, walked downstairs, big, stupid kid in a candy store smile just crossed my face, and I was like, yes, this is where I want to shoot the trigger.
There's real dirt everywhere, and there's definitely a smell that comes along with that dirt. Crawling around in that can be kind of grueling because it's, you know, it's gritty, it's smelly, it's not pleasant. It can be cold at times.
How do you feel, Kat?
Gross. Cold.
It was damp. There were spiders. There were other bugs.
I feel like I pissed him off and I didn't kill him, so I don't know where he went.
Whoa, whoa. What are you looking at?
This thing just scared me. Most uncomfortable thing I did for the film was sitting under that table for long periods of time because there's no room to move, and so you get wonderful like back pain.
Betsy's makeup was something she did herself. I did a bunch of makeup tests and whatnot beforehand, but she had some more professional makeup training, so I just put it into her hands, and she did a great job with it.
The hardest thing to do emotionally would have been the day that we shot all of Grace's death stuff, because once you get in that like dark place of having lost someone, it's really hard to get out of it. It's very cathartic once you are out of it, but being in that state of mind for like hours is exhausting and it's hard. It's really hard to be in that zone for that long.
Some of the shots you can see just like these big tear stains like reflecting off of her face and like tears dripping off of her, and it's just so intense. It's such a great performance, really beyond anything that I'd expected.
I really appreciated being allowed the time to get into character, and however much time that meant that I needed, like, was always respected, and that's really, really important and really cool.
Every take we did, she was more into it, and some of the takes that actually made it into the film were some takes I did later in the day after, you know, I'd considered the shots wrapped, but I was like, you know, you're in this state, do you mind if we run that again from a different angle? Do you mind if we do this?
I went to a greater emotional depth than I had previously known about or prepared for, so it was good that I was able to break through that barrier.
When Grace is coughing up blood, Kat's performance really just sells that. She really had like this crazy stuff going on, like with her eyes and vocally, where she was just like, she sounded really, really panicked and looked really panicked in the way that I'd really envisioned the scene. Editing Grace's death scene through pretty much the end of the film was pretty emotionally taxing, actually, because I had at least an hour of footage of Betsy just raw, just crying and, you know, yelling and sobbing her heart out, basically, and it was all real emotion. And so, you know, just watching it through was overwhelming, and then watching it through slowly over, you know, the course of several hours to cut it.
Please. No. Getting to explore parts of a character that were really dark. I liked that. Which might make me weird. I don't know.
Well, when I talked to Brian on the phone initially, I thought that he was going to be a lot more intimidating than he really is. But actually, he's a really nice guy.
Brian has lots of quirks, and they're all very endearing.
He has a very clear vision about what he wants, and that's great. I mean, it's great to work with somebody who appreciates the art and understands emotions that the actors have to go through, and being really patient to that, because it is difficult for us, especially when you get into that place, and sometimes it's hard to pull yourself out of it. So it's good to have somebody who understands.
Experiencing that just makes the actor, you know, feel much more comfortable and passionate about what they're doing when they see the director equally or more passionate about what they're doing. It's just a good collaboration.
Brian has got just enough nerdy geekiness to be a fantastic director. I think every really good director is just that much nerdy and geekier than most people.
When I read the script, the first times I could tell that people were like, this guy is crazy. That script is awesome, but I don't even know how this guy's gonna do it. And somehow it worked, it happened. I got, everything I needed for the film. Everything worked out. All the challenges, all the difficulties, the things that went wrong ended up benefiting the film, or at least still working for the film. And it blows me away.